For today's tutorial, I am going to be using Hobby Lobby's I Love This yarn. This is in the color Rosy Cheeks. This will be my main color for my hat body. And then I'm also going to be using the color Linen, and this is going to be for my brim. You're also going to need a crochet hook and some waste yarn. I'm using the Addi King, which has 46 pins. And you're going to want to crank until you reach the first black pin and go ahead and start by casting on with your hat body color. Be sure that you set your counter to 0. Now you are just going to crank until you get the right amount of rows. I've listed them here for you, so if you would like to do a different size, you are welcome to. So go ahead and crank the needed rows according to the size that you're making, and I will meet you back here. So I decided to do an adult Santa hat, so I did a total of 70 rows for my main color. So of course you are going to need to go ahead and cut your yarn and put it in the middle, and then we're going to add our brim color here. So if you are doing an adult hat, it doesn't matter what size, you're going to do 40 rows, and for a child size hat, you're going to do 30. And I will meet you back here. So I've done my 40 rows, and now I'm going to add waste yarn. So you're going to go ahead and cut the color here and take it off. And just set that strand in the center. And now I'm going to just add this waste yarn that I've got. And I'm going to do a total of 5 rows. It doesn't matter what size you have, I would do 5 rows. So go ahead and crank out 5 rows. And once you have your 5 rows of waste yarn, you're going to cut your yarn and cast off. So go ahead and stretch your piece so that the stitches are stretched slightly. And I'm going to measure this tube for you, even though I'm doing it for an adult Santa hat. My adult Santa hat tube should measure about 22.5 inches or about 57 centimeters. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and cinch the end where we cast on. This is going to be the top of our hat. So go ahead and just cinch it closed. And then I am going to thread my yarn needle onto this tail, and I'm going to reinforce my stitches. And I'll show you how I do that. So essentially I'm just taking the strand back through the stitches so that there's another strand going through it, and it's just a little more sturdy. Then once you do that, you're going to go ahead and knot off your strand. And I add pom-poms to my hats, and I do that by sewing a button on the inside. I get these buttons from angieandbrit.com, and I'll list it in the description box, but it has the care instructions engraved on them, and I really like that. So go ahead and take your tail through the top if you're doing it like I am, and sew the button on. And then you're going to go ahead and turn your hat completely inside out and roll the bottom of the hat up until it meets the stitches of row 1 of your brim. So you want the last row and the first row of your brim to be at the same level. So you're going to find your strands where you changed colors, and we're going to be stitching into these stitches right here. And so we've got our strands here and our strands here, and we're just going to line these stitches up. And you're going to need your crochet hook for this part. We're going to be slip stitching these together. If you see the stitch marker, it's because I dropped a stitch. So that's what it's doing, it's just holding my stitch for me. So grab your crochet hook, and starting at the stitch right after your strands there, you're going to put both stitches on your hook, and you're going to draw the top one through the bottom. And then you're just going to alternate going from top to bottom and slip stitching right through those stitches. It's really easy, just watch me carefully. Eventually I do change my hook size because this is too big of a hook for this. So you're just going to continue doing this process all the way around, and I'll meet you there. So I did switch to a smaller hook to put less strain on my stitches, so if you're wondering, that's what I did. So here is my last stitch on top. I'm going to go through the last top stitch here and through the last bottom stitch here. And I'm going to go ahead and remove some of this waste yarn so it doesn't get caught. And then I'm going to take that same strand and do another slip stitch or chain one, however you want to call it. I'm going to take this strand through, and this is actually going to hold it in place. And then you're just going to remove your waste yarn and hide your tails inside the brim. And now I'm going to show you how I add my pom-pom. So the pom-poms that I use have these little tiny elastics, and I'm just going to add a piece of yarn in the body color to this elastic. Because they are so short, I'm going to add this yarn to serve as a sort of tag for the wearer to be able to remove this pom-pom before they throw it in the washer. I used to glue ribbon, but this is just much easier. So now you can just push this strand of yarn through the hole in the top and grab it from the inside and pull it down so that you can put the elastic around the button. So here you can see the elastic coming through. It's very, very short, so this yarn really helps getting it inside the hat. And the person who wears it doesn't need a crochet hook if they have this piece of yarn to work with. It's really helpful. And now they can add it and remove it. And I think this hat is the perfect size for a Santa hat. And you are done. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.